Hello and welcome back to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. My name is John Kier, and joining me as always is my co-host, Austin Davidson.
Heyo.
It's Season 2, Episode 43. The Steelers are rolling into their bye week, Austin, at 6-2 by defeating the Detroit Lions at Ford Field by a final score of 20-15. Certainly not a very pretty game by any stretch of the imagination. What were your quick thoughts from this win?
Firstly, this could have been a blowout, but man, overall, did Ben suck? Two, Juju Smith-Schuster proving he's the number 2 receiver in this game, making things interesting as a trade deadline approaches. Even though they said they have no interest in dealing Martavis Bryant, Mike Tomlin in the presser just like probably 5 minutes ago now was just like he was asked whether Bryant will be. Does he think Bryant will contribute later? Going forward, and he said, "We'll see. I don't think so." So that's kind of screwed up. That he already just said, "I don't think he's going to contribute." But thirdly, red zone defense was on point in this game. What were your quick takeaways?
Well, neither team played their best game, to be for sure, but the Steelers were good enough when it counted the most, and they're 6-2 at the halfway point. So obviously, if you project that over a full season, that's 12-4. That's pretty good. Defensively, they got torched for most of the night, but they did make some big plays in the red zone, like you were saying, Austin. That was clearly the difference in this game. The Lions getting all 15 of their points off of field goals, so that was the difference there. Juju Smith-Schuster was amazing, and despite a drop that he had, he definitely cemented his place and role in this offense as the number 2 receiver in my mind. Lastly, Vince Williams, Javon Hargrave, and Sean Davis were all amazing on those goal line stands from earlier, so I just wanted to mention that first. Next, we have kind of an abbreviated and unofficial injury report. We're trying to get more information, obviously, but right now we have Mike Mitchell injury. He left the game with an ankle, got that dinged up. He did not return. I believe you told me, Austin, though, that he said he should be okay, right?
Yep, he tweeted that about 10 minutes ago.
Chris Hubbard left pretty late in the game. Matt Filer replaced him for, I think, 1 or 2 plays outside of the victory formation kneels, and he didn't come back. It's been reported that he has a concussion. Who reported that?
Mike Tomlin said in the presser following the game.
All right, so he'll obviously be in protocol for now. Sean Davis had an ankle injury, but he only missed, I think, a couple plays. Jesse James also got absolutely crushed earlier in this game. I don't know if you saw that play. He only missed 1 play, so he was okay, but man, he took a vicious hit. Did you see that play?
Oh, I did. It was nasty. That drew a penalty too. Shout out to him for taking one for the team and getting the first down through odd means.
Yeah. Very interesting. I'm just looking up kind of what you said. Just like what you were talking about with Tomlin's response to whether or not Bryant will be involved. He's gonna have a bye. They're gonna have a bye week coming up, but as you mentioned, the trade deadline is Tuesday, right? So, technically tomorrow, actually.
Correct.
Based on when we're broadcasting right now. You know what? Why don't we just talk about it now? Do you think there's a chance he gets traded?
I feel like when every team says that a person's not available via trade, they're always lying. I feel like there will always be an offer where if a team was that ridiculous, they would take it. And I can't remember the other team, but funny enough, who contacted the Steelers and it already came out is the Patriots. The Patriots contacted the Steelers about Martavis Bryant. They were interested, and they said there were 7 teams in total, and only the Patriots, as far as I know, were leaked as one of them. So there are offers on the table. I'm sure they're all bad, like a 7th round or a 6th round, maybe even a 5th round. But I think it's a possibility. I think if a team was to say, hey, you could have a 2nd round pick and maybe like an inside linebacker depth. You could have someone, our 2nd string inside linebacker. I think the Steelers would take that. That's obviously way overpaying. but even like maybe a fourth round, an inside linebacker that would be worth looking at. I feel like, and I was talking about this with John off the podcast, but the Bills really look like a good fit for Martavis Bryant. Not only because they need a wide receiver, but for the Steelers, the Bills have so many picks next year, they can't make it. They can't use all those draft picks. They're going to have to cut way too many people, and it's just better for them to either trade up in the draft or trade for players now. They have 2 firsts, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and they just traded back into the 6th round when they trade. I don't know if I mentioned that in the last podcast, but the Bills traded for Marcel. The Bills traded away Marcel Darius for a 6th round pick to the Jaguars, but yeah, they just have a boatload of picks, and I think the Bills would be good suitors.
Possibly. I don't think I know this obviously wouldn't be Bryant's choice, but I don't think he'd fit better in Buffalo in any case. Not that it really matters for the Steelers, but Tyrod Taylor doesn't throw the ball deep, so I wonder if where he would want to be traded if Bryant has any say in it. Like, I want to be traded here or something like that. But regardless of that, you're right. As far as trades being off the table or something like that, look, the Steelers are going to field offers. They're going to hear what other teams have to say. They'd be crazy not to, no matter who it is. As far as whether or not they pull the trigger on one, I still am leaning heavily in that in terms of no. But I mean, it's certainly possible, even if it is a small chance. As far as possible destinations, I'm not too sure, but it seems more and more like the Steelers are willing to part ways with him. But at the same time, the Steelers only have a few days to do it, and if he is still in Pittsburgh, I think he still does have a chance to contribute to this team. The problem is his main weapon is catching the deep ball, and Ben Roethlisberger has not been good at it this year. So we can get more into that at another time, which we have plenty of times this year. But for the time being, I guess, Austin, we probably aren't going to do another show until the trade deadline. So I guess just what's your final prediction? Does he get traded? Does he not?
Oh, he definitely doesn't. I think the chance of him getting traded is like probably 5% at the most. So my guess is no. And you think no as well, right?
Agreed. All right, so we can get back into the rest of the offense, which put up only 20 points. So where do you start with this?
I'll start with the bad to get out of the way. Ben looked horrible. Ben did not do good at all, in my opinion. Yes, he threw a 97-yard touchdown, but that was mostly Schuster on the play, and on the play before he missed a wide open Jesse James. But that's not it. He was off target on more plays, even on balls that were caught as well. And there's a lot of forced deep balls. And one that stuck with me was a deep ball to Justin Hunter while he was in double coverage. Like, I don't trust when he does that with Antonio Brown. Don't do that with Justin Hunter. It was also against Darius Slay as one of the defenders, which is the line's best corner, so it wasn't exactly the smartest decision.
Well,
I want to go back and look.
Not necessarily, though, because Hunter's 6'4" and Slay is, I believe, 5'11", so that's a huge height advantage. I think that's why he went there.
Still in the double coverage?
I mean, the double coverage is a question mark, but I'm just saying the matchup with Slay isn't much of an issue because Hunter is that deep line passer or deep, speedy kind of guy, and that's though I'm not saying it was a good decision. I'm just saying he's probably saw Slay and figured that was definitely a favorable matchup. I think I told you, but I might not have, but I saw on Twitter that Antonio Brown was getting a lot of good coverage good matchups in the slot because Slay was not following him around in the slot. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't. I did not see that. But I was curious on that play to see where Antonio Brown was. Since Justin Hunter was in double coverage and one of the cornerbacks was Darius Slay, I want to go back after we're done with this podcast and see who was on Brown and how many were on Brown. Because if Justin Hunter was in double coverage and one of the cornerbacks was Darius Slay, I feel like Antonio Brown should have been open somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Do you remember I think I texted you about this, the long pass play where Brown basically bailed out Roethlisberger? It was a catch at I think the 3-yard line, the 5-yard line.
Yes, I do.
I believe I texted you that whoever was on the left side had basically not necessarily beaten his man, but had a step on him, and it was 1-on-1 down the sideline. I don't know if you saw that, but that looked like a pretty good play to me, or at least a more open play than Brown was for sure.
I didn't get to see the player that did that. I was only I can't even lie. I only saw Brown because I wasn't looking around. To be fair, but I'm probably sure that that's true since Roethlisberger has focused on Brown a lot this year and just kept his eyes locked on him. But anyhow, do you have anything else to add before I go? I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead. I'm gonna look for that play right now.
Other than what we just talked about, Ben also missed a wide open Darius Hayward-Bay for a touchdown. And his interception was on a ball forced to Antonio Brown. But I guess on the bright side, I started Glover Quinn in fantasy, so it was okay. The Steelers still won. I got points in fantasy. It's a win-win. But then run blocking wasn't that good, but that was expected coming against the 7th-ranked rush defense. But all right, now the good. Steelers' offensive line didn't give up a single sack tonight in the second week in a row, and that's amazing with Chris Hubbard and Matt Feeler, whichever it is, in at tackle these past 2 games. This team continues to have one of the best pass blocking lines in the league. Then moving on, Juju Smith-Schuster is a child amongst men that plays like a man amongst boys. Obviously, I don't mean that in an offensive way. He's literally just the youngest player in the league, and that's what I meant by that. But he set the Steelers record for the longest pass touchdown ever, and he tied for the longest play in Steelers history, which is 97 yards by, I can't remember the name. I think it was a Bobby something. It was a long time ago.
Oh, and, Bobby Gage. Bobby Gage.
There you go. I knew it was a Bobby. And he is now a big part of Steelers history. Roethlisberger went on target, actually did okay. Moving on, throwing for over 300 yards. And to be fair to him, had it not been for Eli Rogers, he would have had 2 touchdowns on the day, which would have been he had 2 touchdowns to only 1 interception. And then, per usual, Bell and Brown did well. I for some reason in my head, Bell did well, but like stats, not so much.
He did well in space. Like when he had the space, he was doing a pretty good job. But the numbers will tell you he didn't play well, and he had a pretty bad. Well, I guess it wasn't egregious per se, but it was a bad time to lose a fumble.
Yeah, that was his first fumble since last year at the Giants. So it wasn't exactly good when the Steelers were moving downfield, and it felt like Roethlisberger was hitting a rhythm. So it only made sense for one of the other two to make a mistake when Roethlisberger was doing well. But that's really all I had to say. What did you see from the offense? I apologize.
Well, I was just watching that play. That wide open, it wasn't necessarily wide open, but the one-on-one coverage from that play was actually Jesse James. So I kind of understand why Roethlisberger didn't throw it, because it was a I'm putting in a link for you to see the play there, Austin. It's called Ben Roethlisberger throw to AB is right on the money. It should be somewhere in the highlights there. Jesse James doesn't necessarily have him beat. The problem is he's so much taller than the defensive player. It kind of looks like he's in front of him a little bit. So I kind of thought, and he kind of did get behind him, but that was after the ball was thrown. So it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But at the same point, maybe Jesse James makes that kind of catch. But, I mean, then again, he hasn't really made many of those catches in his career either. So it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, but that still wasn't a great decision anyways. But it wasn't a great day for the offense, obviously. But you have to start with Juju Smith-Schuster. What a performance, Austin. Starting off the game with a 41-yard reception and adding that to the record books with the 97-yard catch and run later on in the third quarter. He was on fire pretty much all game, and although he dropped a key third down pass for the Steelers, he was pretty obviously the best player on the field. Considering the way the Steelers have lacked a number 2 receiver to this point in the season, this was very welcome, and his timing on breaking out like this was quite impeccable. Elsewhere, Antonio Brown was pretty solid. He didn't have a huge game again. Le'Veon Bell, we just kind of talked about him. You know, he didn't have a lot of room today, so I'm not going to blame a ton of it on him. That fumble, I don't even think it was necessarily his fault. He had the ball tight to his body. The defensive lineman just found the ball and just punched it out. So I mean, fumbles are going to happen in this league, and when you go that long between fumbling, it's clearly you're doing something right. So, you know, it's disappointing, and you would have wanted to see the Steelers run the ball a bit better, but, you'll take the win, obviously. The offensive line was good in pass protection, didn't give up a sack, like you mentioned, Austin. I don't think Ben Roethlisberger played as badly as you think he did. I don't think he was good, like really good at all, but I felt like he was pretty much where he's been at, if not a little bit better than he had been all season. There were some throws that he just plain missed by a little bit. The interception was definitely his worst throw of the day, but he regrouped and made several good throws. He definitely would have had some better numbers too had the catch by Rodgers been made and had Juju Smith-Schuster not dropped a third down pass. So instead of being 17 for 31, he would have been 19 for 31. So not great, but also better than what he finished with. Last but not least, the red zone offense was pretty bad again. Uh, it'd be nice to see them getting a little bit better with these sort of situations. But boy, I feel like that drop by Eli Rogers really, I don't want to say set the tone, but it seemed like it really just took the air out of the tires for a little bit. Did you get a chance to watch the play?
I did get a chance to watch it. It looked like Jesse James had a step or a half a step on him. I see that. I see why he forced it to AB. It's hard to say because I don't know if Jesse James, if that guy had the closing speed on Jesse James since he's a tight end and he's slower, if he had the speed to just keep up with him. If Roethlisberger launched that ball to James, if the defender caught up with him, would Jesse James have the same competitiveness as Antonio Brown and make a contested catch? And normally, in the past, Jesse James has not really been that great at it. So I feel like it was an okay decision, but I felt like there was a chance to get a home run ball right there. It didn't matter since they got a touchdown off of that next. Yeah, they got a 5-yard touchdown run with Le'Veon Bell right afterward. But so it didn't really matter in the long run. But they could have. I think it was a possibility that they could have hit a home run ball right there.
Yeah, and you saw that you kind of saw what I meant by like almost like the mirage illusion of Jesse James being in front of him just because he's so much taller.
Yep. But, I saw that because of 2 steps turned into like 1 or a half step even.
But in any case, we can go on to the other side of the ball. The defense, man, they got torched, but at the same time, they also only gave up 15 points. So, how do you feel about this kind of a performance?
Yeah, I have very mixed feelings, to be honest. I didn't at first it was like positive-ish, and then I went and realized all the negatives. Was like, overall they did better. They did better than they did more good things than bad things, is what I'm trying to say. The game was defined by the bend but don't break style of defense. They held the Lions to only 15 points, all on field goals, so that's good. That is the most important part, that they didn't let the Lions score points. But it's how they got to get those points that really just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But first, we'll talk about them allowing no touchdowns. That's fantastic, especially with all the Lions' talented wide receivers and Matt Stafford playing out of his mind this game. Then they also pretty much completely shut down the Lions' run game, with the Lions rushing 22 times for only 71 yards. And only 60 of those yards came from running backs. However, while those things are good, everything else about the defense was bad. And this is where it kind of just leaves you sour in the mouth looking back at all the stats and stuff. And shutting down the rush was kind of expected. So that was, and they didn't even really shut it down. So it depends on how you look at it. As I said, they allowed Matt Stafford to have a day. He threw for 423 yards and no interceptions, which in turn made the Lions receivers have a day. And they had so many explosive plays. There were 7 that I could count for the Lions. 43-yard pass to Marvin Jones, 33-yard pass to Marvin Jones, 25-yard pass to T.J. Jones, 34-yard catch to T.J. Jones. That's a lot of Jones. Reddick catch and run for 23 yards. Eric Ebron 44-yard catch. That's a lot, especially for the defense that was ranked number 1 against the pass prior to this week. Then, in my mind, the Steelers didn't force a turnover. They got a turnover, but that was literally all luck. They didn't really force it. They didn't do nothing. With Golden Tate literally throwing the game away and a fumble that was recovered by Artie Burns. Like it will go down on the stat sheet as a fumble recovered. I don't know if they even count that as a forced fumble by anyone. I don't think it can. I don't know how that really works. A fumble will happen, but it wasn't by a Steeler. Then finally, the pass rush was awful in my mind. It wasn't like they did the worst. They got sacks, but comparatively to what we expected, they severely underperformed. It might be nitpicky, but only 2 sacks. Really, besides one holding penalty, Mahalik performed really well here. And I think the T.J. Watt made him look good, and that was kind of bad. But not only that, Ricky Wagner came out for a while, and the Steelers didn't even get a sack on any of the plays he was out of the game. And that's their best lineman. So it's like, what happened? It was just really frustrating. I will say, however, that Stafford, while not getting sacked a lot, was under pressure very often. And that's a lot of thanks to Javon Hargrave there. But moving on to what you have to say about the defense, what did you see this game?
Well, it goes without saying, but this was all about bending but not breaking. I think you'll agree with me. The Steelers faced the best quarterback that they've seen to this point in the season in Matthew Stafford, right?
Oh, yeah. I think it's no question.
Stafford torched this defense. 423 yards and 27 completions. This team gave up a lot of big passes, which you already mentioned, Austin. They also missed a lot of tackles, and at times they gave up some bigger runs. Early on, they kind of bottled it up, but there were a couple drives where the Lions were starting to get some nice running plays. The pass rush was also kind of quiet. I kind of agree with you in the sense that they caused some pressure, but there were also times where there wasn't much pressure. Kind of a strange role reversal for the defense, where the red zone defense, which had struggled all year, was amazing this week. And in between the 20s, the defense was not very good, where all season it has been good. While the Lions certainly earned a fair share of the blame for not finishing drives themselves, the Steelers' ability to tighten up, including 2 different goal line stands from the 4-yard line in, were huge. Keeping the Lions out of the red zone, or out of the end zone with 5 different trips to the red zone is no small feat for sure. Efforts from the likes of Javon Hargrave, Sean Davis, Vince Williams, I actually wrote down Sean Davis twice, my bad, and Tyson Alualu were the differences in those instances. The Steelers were lucky on several occasions, particularly that Golden Tate fumble, but it's the best they've played with their backs up against the wall. That's what makes it count, and I think that they did a good job when it mattered. You really would have liked to see them get more pressure, and like you said, with Brian Mahalik in, I feel like outside of a couple plays, he really wasn't bad at all.
No. Like, literally, the announcers were surprised. They were talking about how he's overperforming for what everyone expected, and he did well. Honestly, what's scary is he might be able to lock down that job as his even when Greg Robinson's healthy, because Greg Robinson is awful. So,
I mean, if he keeps it up, there's no reason he shouldn't. I mean, geez, he's a big man. He did a good job. Yeah, I don't know if it's just like he knows what is coming, or if like he's familiar with the players, but at the same point, the Steelers players should know like what he's good at and what he's not good at. It was just kind of strange, but I definitely think Javon Hargrave was the Steelers' best pass rusher all game long. Were you kind of surprised James Harrison didn't come in at all?
I was completely surprised, especially after what he did when he came in against the Chiefs on his few plays he did. I felt like, especially with the pass rush not getting there on the outside, Bud Dupree actually didn't really do much at all. Even though that's not his side, the Steelers last week were switching sides up and changing it up. I saw no reason why they couldn't pull Dupree out for a few plays and put James Harrison in, who's fresh and has shown that he's still got it. It's not like he's an old veteran that's not really fast no more and can't do it. No, he got a sack last week, so it's just on the few plays he came in. I feel like it's a little bit of stubborn. It feels like it doesn't make sense. I'm guessing you were surprised as well?
Well, let's put it this way. Would you rather have James Harrison or a combination of Anthony Chicklow and Arthur Moats? I think that's a pretty easy question.
Oh, yeah, easily Harrison.
And yet we saw Moats and Chicolo for large portions of the game because we knew T.J. Watt was kind of banged up in this game, which could have partially contributed to his poor-ish performance. I don't get it, especially in a game this close. What happened to the closer role that the coaches were talking about? It's completely mind-boggling, and honestly, like I don't understand it. Nothing against Chicolo or Moats. I like both of them, but I mean, James Harrison, he's a proven player. Uh, there's nothing else really to say. He's produced more this season than Moats has for sure. And Chicolo has produced more, if only because he had a couple sacks in the first couple games and a special teams touchdown. I mean, what else has he done this year?
Nothing else really.
Exactly. In any case, though, some good things, some bad things for this defense, but all in all, they gave up only 15 points, so you consider it a win. The special teams had a much better day, don't you think?
Yeah, Agnew was scary to watch, man, but luckily he only had 21 return yards. Still, he's so good at returns. I hope he might be like the next Devin Hester, where he's literally just really good at returns. But I mean, it could only be a year, but you never know. We'll see in the future. Then I didn't like what I saw from Antonio Brown on a punt that he called for a fair catch on. I thought he could have gotten at least 5 or 6 yards if he tried returning it. He had a lot of space from what I saw, but he just continues to look scared out there, and that's about all I had to say for special teams. Do you have anything to add about special teams?
Jordan Berry had a very nice bounce-back game. 2 of his 4 punts were inside the 20. He averaged 47 yards on 4 punts. You mentioned Agnew only had 21 punt return yards and 1 kick return for 20 yards. Chris Boswell was 2 of 2 on field goals, although I think you saw that one where he doinked it off the right upright, and I thought he missed it because the ball went flying to the left and it didn't hit the back of the net, but it actually went through, almost hit both crossbars, but it did go through.
I did see that, and he got really lucky there, but I mean, it went through, so as far as the stat sheet says, Boswell got it, so.
Yeah. Outside of that, not too terribly much to say. The Brown calling that fair catch there was very odd because, like I told you just a year or two ago, he was still catching that ball. I mean, he caught a ball like that against the Colts and ran it back for a touchdown a couple years ago. Then he had that celebration where he literally jumped, crotch first into the goalpost.
That was a fantastic celebration. That's still one of my favorites, even though that would still get flagged.
But, like, for real, he had pretty much the same amount of room. He had a ton of room, so I don't know. Maybe something is wrong with Eli Rogers' confidence because he hasn't done anything in the return game. He hasn't had any chances, and he didn't look good today either in the limited chances he got. In any case, though, let's get some positional unit grades. I'll start with the offense. I gave them a C+, Austin. I wanted to give them a B-, but just like if they don't have that Smith-Schuster touchdown, where would they be,
It would have been rough, but I gave them that B- because of Juju Smith-Schuster and Jesse James performing better than he has the past 2 games. I felt like it was good enough just to win, so I gave them the B-. It was really close though. I nearly gave them the C+.
It's like a C+++ or a B-.
Yeah, there you go. They got like a 79 right there.
Like a 79 point, like 4.9.
Yeah.
Right on the edge there. Also forgot to mention Justin Hunter. He had limited action, but he did have a nice catch on a 3rd down where he kind of extended over the 1st down marker. So that was nice to see, even if it wasn't limited action. The defense, I gave a B-. Look, they played their best football when it counted the most, so they definitely earned at least not a bad grade, but at the same time, they got torched by Matthew Stafford, and they gave up a ton of big plays in this game.
Yeah, I also have to agree. I give them a B-. I wanted to give them a B because of how well they did when it mattered, but it's just in between the lines, they really were miserable as a unit. The red zone defense, which is the most important kind of defense, was on point, but I mean, you gave up so many yards, so I had to give them the B- there.
Special teams, Austin, I gave them an A minus. Thing keeping them from an A was the fact the Steelers did nothing in the return game, and Boswell really was fortunate to not have that short field goal a miss. He nearly pushed it.
I give them a B plus, pretty close to your grade. Considering the Antonio Brown thing left the worst taste in my mouth. I feel like he should have just fought for the 5 yards there or just went for it. And then also the Boswell kick. Barry did well though. Barry bounced back and had a better game this game, so I give them the B plus.
Yeah, I think that's another scenario where it's a B plus 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 or an A minus minus minus. We'll get into our awards and standouts right now. So the first one, as always, is the big stop of the week, and this one was kind of tough. I originally had this as something else, but I'm going to give it to Tyson Alualu for his sack of Matthew Stafford on 4th and goal. The Steelers were up 20-12. Kind of a curious decision for the Lions to go for it here. I kind of thought they'd kick the field goal here.
Yeah, and it would have changed the entire game. They kicked the field goal. They came back on, I think, their next drive. It might have been 2 drives later.
It was the next drive.
It was the next drive. They came back and were in field goal position. So if they kicked that, they would have been up. Hold on, am I confused? I feel like
it would have been 20-18 if they had gotten both.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and then they got back into the red zone one more time, and it would have made a difference. Because then they would have been leading 21-20 if they kicked the field goal. And Matt Prater was fantastic as he's been all day. As he's been all season. He is automatic. He's probably the best kicker in the league this year, I think. Maybe who's going to beat him out? Jake Elliott, maybe? Jake Elliott.
One of the better ones for sure. In any case, the Steelers up 20-12 and needing a stop in the worst way the Lions had driven down the field. The pocket was collapsing, and it looked like Stafford had a pretty clear lane to the end zone, but then Alualu comes up and stops him just a yard short of the line of scrimmage, so 2 yards short of the end zone. The Steelers took over for what I believe was that the... Oh, no, wait. Was it 20-12?
That's what confused me, because I think it was 20-15. I think if they kicked the field goals there instead, it would have made a difference on the next play because it would have been 20-18 and they would have taken control there. I was confused on that.
You know what? I got to check this right now because, you know what? Now that I'm saying it, I think that was when Juju's touchdown was.
Yep. So I'll just go into player of the week while you look that up.
Oh, no, I got it. It is.
Okay.
It was 13-12 Pittsburgh at the time. My apologies. So the score was wrong, but it was 13-12. So the Steelers had a 1-point lead. So it looked like in any case the Lions were going to take the lead, but then they decided to go for it, which is interesting because we talked about that situation. The Chiefs did the same thing a couple weeks ago, and it didn't work out for them either. But the Steelers get the stop, and a few plays later, it's Juju Smith-Schuster 97 yards to pay dirt. So that ended up being a huge turning point in this game for sure. So Tyson Alualu, for setting up the big play by Smith-Schuster and the Steelers offense, earns this week's Big Stop of the Week award. So please continue with the Stronger Than Steel Player of the Week.
The Stronger Than Steel Player of the Week, it was pretty easy to pick this week for his 7-reception performance for 193 yards and a touchdown with a long of 97, which set the franchise record for longest receiving touchdown. Juju Smith-Schuster is the Stronger Than Steel Player of the Week.
Alrighty.
Now let's move into the Stronger Than Steel play of the game. Who did you pick?
This was pretty obvious, Austin. You know, this is something we work on together, and I really don't think there was anything else to pick from here. It was the pretty obvious choice.
Oh, I apologize. It was easily the Juju Smith-Schuster 97-yard touchdown. Ben made a nice pass after really screwing up the one before that, and he bounced back and made a really good pass. He actually told Smith-Schuster that he was going to be the hot man there. He was going to be the one that if the Lions blitzed the up front guy, which it looked like he was going to be the one to get it. And then I don't think it happened exactly that way. The guy dropped back instead of blitzing, but it's still Smith-Schuster was still open because he did a double move on the play. And it went for, as you know, a 97-yard touchdown, which is the longest in franchise history. So he's going to be forever a part of history until someone else beats it.
Well, it doesn't have to go much. I guess I'm trying to think of a way to say this. It can't go much further back, I should say. Only 2 more yards for what would be officially the longest play forever. So, all things considered, who impressed you on the Steelers in this game?
Firstly was Javon Hargrave. Not so much on the stat sheet, but he was ruining Swanson and applying constant pressure. He continuously impresses me with his bull rush. He also had a big stop on the 4th down. He contributed, and he was big on the last play. So next up was Jesse James. After not catching a ball in 2 straight games, he came up big with 2 big catches in this game for 42 yards. One was a 30-yard catch, and the other was 12-yard catches. Big catches nonetheless. And then he took a nasty hit. And what would have been a 3rd down incomplete, it got the 1st down for the Steelers. So he took one for the team there, as I mentioned earlier. Who impressed you?
I had 3 players. First and foremost, Jordan Berry. We already know how he was 33rd among punters in the NFL. He had a great day average-wise and net-wise, so it was a good job for him today. Sean Davis, I felt like he played pretty well, and so did Vince Williams as far as those goal line stops. They had a couple of big plays, including Sean Davis with a pass breakup in the end zone. So I felt like they definitely impressed me today. On the flip side, who disappointed you today?
The first one I have is Knicks. Rosie had probably his worst game of the season. He drew a penalty and not on himself. He got a penalty, I'm sorry. He didn't draw a penalty. And he didn't do that good in run blocking as we've started to grow accustomed to. But it was only 1 game, though, so he's been doing good nonetheless. Then number 2 was Artie Burns. He's a mixed bag today. It's pretty much how his season and as his time as a Steeler has gone. He gave up a few big plays and took bad angles on some plays where he could have made a tackle. He just looks confused at times or slow to react. He doesn't really know how to pursue someone or wrap them up. He's still playing like a rookie that needs more time developing, but he's not a rookie anymore, so it's getting disappointing. It's not like he flashes so many good qualities, and then he just blows it on the next play. It's just he's really peaks and valleys with him. So who disappointed for you?
I'm going to pile on Artie Burns. Look, I don't know what is going on. He just doesn't know how to tackle or play the run.
Not in the slightest. It is really, really bad. Like the play I was thinking of where he doesn't know how to pursue and looks confused. There's just a run play to Amir Abdullah that bounced out to the left side, and he was like there to make the tackle, and he did like a spin around move because I guess he didn't think he was gonna take a right angle or something. I guess he thought Amir Abdullah was gonna be faster than him, but I thought Artie Burns, if he just took the right angle, could have made it there. He just like got all. I guess I'm not excited. I don't know what to call it, but he got a little jumpy and just did a flip for no reason, if you know what I'm saying. I don't know if you remember that play specifically, but
all I remember is just like I can't remember who it was, but they were headed towards the sideline, and Burns like literally basically just ran with him to the sidelines instead of trying to bring him down.
Yep.
I mean, my goodness, Ike Taylor needs to get down to the Steelers facility ASAP and show him how to tackle, show a cornerback how to tackle, because Ike Taylor, sure, he had problems with his hands, but he knew how to tackle, and my goodness, if I'd be running lots of tosses out his way if I'm an opponent. I want to have him make tackles as much as possible, because man, that was ugly. My other loser today was Eli Rogers. Look. It's tough, but that drop in the red zone, I kind of felt like he got Roethlisberger off his game a little bit. If Eli was looking to get more involved in the offense, this was not a good game for him then. Only 2 targets. Yes, the second one resulted in a penalty that gave the Steelers, basically put the Steelers 1 first down away from icing the game, but that first touchdown drop just really left a bad taste in my mouth, and I feel like this game could have been completely different had he made that catch, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. It would have been... I feel like the Steelers have had troubles getting hot. They don't start the game very well, and that would have been a really good touchdown to start the game, but it didn't happen, so...
All right. Is there anything else you wanted to say for this game?
No, I don't believe so.
What do you think of Bell's celebration?
I felt like it was weak. I won't lie. After the hide and seek celebration, it was cool, but it wasn't as funny as the hide and seek celebration. They said it was a tribute to Debo. So afterwards, it was better after I found that out, but I didn't realize that when they were first doing it. But it was alright. What did you think?
Oh, I loved it, but I'm used to seeing stuff like that. I mean, lifting for football, I just kind of remember seeing stuff like that. Maybe not where the whole team's gathered around you, but I just thought it was kind of funny, especially how they use the rookie Smith Schuster as the guy as basically the bench. I thought that was funny. Um, but yeah, so we can move on. The Steelers are at the bye week, Austin. Kind of cool that it's literally at the halfway point of the season for the Steelers at 6-2. What are your quick thoughts on the season thus far, and what do you think about the team going forward into the second half?
The offense is so trash. I said it, I think, now 2 weeks ago, but the offense has reached its ceiling, sadly. There's basically no improving in my mind, but I guess you never know. It's just what I think. Last year, the defense looked like it was never going to improve, and we reached literally, I think it was the halfway point, and then the defense just turned it around out of nowhere.
It was later than the halfway point. It was week 10 was the loss to Dallas.
Oh, really? Okay, so it was a little bit later. So I guess it's never really too late to turn it around. Maybe change some things up on offense, change some plays, add some nice plays in there. But in my mind, it's over. Luckily, it's a good thing that defense wins championships, or so they say. The defense hasn't given up many points this year. They are very stingy, and it's making up for the offensive lack of production. Going forward, I really don't see much changing, as I've already said. I hope going into the bye week, the rest of the Steelers can get healthy, including Tuitt, Gilbert, and now Mitchell, so we can see this team at its full potential. I think with Tuitt back, we're going to see some crazy things. There's going to be a lot of pressure. Gilbert, in the past 2 games, it hasn't mattered whatsoever. You said in a previous podcast that Gilbert's not really known for his run blocking; it's more his pass blocking. So it's not like run blocking is going to improve that much. It's just and the pass blocking has been on point the past 2 weeks. Pass blocking has been amazing. It's probably been the best part of the Steelers' offense.
That might be the most surprising thing too, is how consistently good it's been.
Yeah, and we talked about this before the season even started. We both thought that the Steelers had the most depth at offensive line this season, and it's showing. I like seeing B.J. Finney play. Chris Hubbard, when he first came in, didn't look so good. It's probably because he wasn't ready for it. But
yeah, exactly. I don't know, maybe after some time he finally got things together. I honestly think those 2 guys could be starting on most NFL teams right now.
I said to Dom, who is a Broncos fan, that the Broncos should try trading for him, as they tried trading for Joe Thomas and stuff. And the Broncos are currently without 2 of their tackles now, with Menelik Watson getting hurt, and on the other side, I'm forgetting his name, it's Donald Stevenson. Donald Stevenson getting hurt. So I told him it would probably be a good trade to try and trade for one of our backups, or even Gerald Hawkins, who's been inactive the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, see, I thought Hawkins was going to be the one coming in, not Filer.
Yep. Nope. I feel like the Steelers should try trading Hawkins for probably a 6th-round pick or something, or a 7th-round pick.
He's probably not worth that much. He's never played. Exactly. He's never played in the regular season. He's not worth that much.
You're right. But there's hopes. But sorry, we strayed away. What are your quick thoughts on the season? That mine weren't so quick, and what do you think about the team going forward?
Well, they've had their ups and downs, particularly the offense all season long, but they've made a legitimate claim to be the AFC's most complete team. They've had one of the best collective defensive units all season, and even though Ben Roethlisberger and the offense has fallen far short of expectations thus far, they've done enough to win games. Heading into the bye week, there's still a ton of work to do. The defense has to tighten up some things, and the offense needs to figure out some things too, particularly in the passing game. Look, it's the Steelers are 6-2. It's looking pretty good. They played most of their games on the road this year, so that means most of the second half schedule is going to be at home, and they still haven't played their best football yet. Yes, they could get worse, but I just think they can still get better. Mike Tomlin's teams traditionally finish well, so this bye week is coming at a good time, and the Steelers, what team does Ben Roethlisberger love to play more than any other team? You'd think, at least the last few years.
Browns.
Uh, well, I meant as far as like his statistical dominance, as far as passing and yards and touchdowns.
I'm confused. Who are you going for?
The Colts.
Oh wow! I should have known that. Yeah, he threw 6 touchdowns back-to-back years against them, and then
Not quite, but what the exact statistics from the last 3 wins, he's thrown let's see, 11 touchdowns the last 3 games. He had 6 in the first game, then 4 in 2015, then 3 last year. And
okay.
no interceptions in any of those 3 games, by the way.
Yeah, that's amazing. The Colts defense is just not improved ever. They suck.
Yeah, they're not good at all. You know, it's funny that I remember we did a podcast previewing that Colts Thanksgiving game, which is almost a year ago now. And, you know, here we are, getting ready to play the Colts again. It's kind of funny. I remember I hosted that from Florida. I was on vacation with my family in Florida, and I just did it outside because it was so nice. Kind of crazy how that was already a year ago.
Yeah, that is really crazy.
But in any case, let's go back to the rest of the week. We'll do a quick. We'll look back at the rest of the week as far as how the other games turned out. We obviously don't have the Monday night game yet. But quick, we'll do a Thursday night football prediction. It's the Bills at the Jets. The Bills are 3.5-point favorites at home. So who you got?
I have the Bills covering. I think I'm done doubting them as a team. I doubted them this week for probably the last time. The Raiders just sucked, and the Bills looked good. So I have the Bills covering. What do you got?
I also do. Look, I think they might actually be for real, which is kind of crazy, but they made quick work of the Raiders today. Final score predictions. Look, I'll just go right into the Raiders-Bills game since I just mentioned them. Bills were -2.5. I took the Bills to cover, and Austin picked the Raiders to win outright. Look, I don't know. Something's wrong with the Raiders, and the Bills are for real, I think. That's all I really have to say about it.
Yeah, I have nothing really to add. The Raiders are underwhelming this year, which is surprising. They should have gotten better. It doesn't make sense. They added Marshawn Lynch, who was older, but, I mean, really what's wrong, I think, with the Raiders, firstly, Derek Carr is inconsistent this year. Very, very inconsistent. And then B, their line isn't playing like the Raiders line. The Raiders line was top 3 last year. It's arguable where you want to place them, but they were top 3 more than likely in most people's rankings. And this year they're not opening holes for the running backs whatsoever. They're having the same actual problem that the Steelers are, except even worse. The Raiders' run blocking is just terrible. I wouldn't say the Steelers is terrible. It's not as good as it was last year, but the Raiders, still good pass protection, but their line is just not playing the same.
Yeah, they haven't been very good. Back to the Steelers. Austin and I both took the Steelers to cover, and they won by 5 with a 3-point spread. So we were both right there. Vikings at Browns. We both took the Vikings to cover in London, and this game was close. The Browns were actually leading at halftime, but the Vikings moved along and recovered a fumble from Isaiah Crowell on the first play from scrimmage in the second half and never looked back. Look, the Browns are bad. 0-16. Here they come.
Yep. Nothing else to really say. They might be fighting for the number 1 pick overall again. Could get Saquon Barkley. So, I mean, that's something.
I mean, who's going to get him the ball, though? Some no-name quarterback. I don't know. Whatever. Panthers at Buccaneers. Bucks were 2.5-point favorites. We both took the Panthers to win outright. Look, the Bucks are in trouble right now.
The Bucks are done. There's no chance for the Bucks. They're the worst in their division this year. Unless, actually, I guess I can't say that. The Falcons and Bucks have yet to play, and the Falcons might actually be worse. But the Bucks, they have no chance of beating the Panthers or Saints out for the division, and they're already in. Even if you want to say the Falcons are worse than them, they're third in the division, and there's just way too many other strong teams around the NFL for them to have a shot at the playoffs. So I think they're already done for the most part.
Yes, indeed. Next game, I'll just let me back this up here. I had something in mind I wanted to say, but I forgot. Oh yeah, Falcons at Jets. The Falcons were 4-point favorites, and this is actually pretty tough. I chose the Jets +4, but what was it, 25-20?
Yep. And Catanzaro missed a field goal towards the end from 46 yards.
Yeah, that was just another one where I feel like there were a lot of missed field goals today. Uh, Jets hang tough again, but the Falcons struggle, but come away with the win. Colts at Bengals. I took the Bengals to cover. The Colts made it close, and Jack Doyle ruined my day as far as fantasy football goes. I benched him 5 minutes before kickoff.
Oh no, baby! Oh no, I dropped Jack Doyle, so I mean, we're both messed up. And my starting tight end was Zach Miller. So, did you see what happened to Zach Miller? We haven't gotten to that game yet. But,
What happened?
oh, he dislocated his knee. It was nasty, and it was on a touchdown. It was originally ruled a touchdown, and then they took it away from him because he got hurt and dropped it. It was screwed up.
Adding insult to injury.
Yeah, so he's probably, I don't know how long the dislocated knee is going to take to recover from, but I think he's probably done for the season.
Yeah. LA Chargers at Patriots. I took the Chargers +7.5. Austin picked them to win outright. They lost by 8 because Joey Bosa is an idiot. That's all I'm going to say.
Yep. Honestly, this should have been a bigger blowout, but also Gostkowski sucked. I don't know what happened to him, but he missed, weirdly enough, he kicked 3 field goals from 43 yards. Specifically 43. He missed 2 of them and hit 1. I don't get it. And he might cost me my fantasy game because he put up so many points regardless, but he could have had 8 more had he hit those 43-yard field goals. I think he would have had like 22 points as a kicker. Freaking ruining my day. Thanks, Stephen Gostkowski.
Bears at Saints. Bears were 9-point underdogs. I took them +9 and they lost by 8. Austin picked the Saints to cover. Probably should not have been that close. That's all I'll say.
No, the Bears actually played better than the Saints, but the Saints just, I don't know. It's just it was handed them. This is the Saints' 5th straight win, which I didn't realize either, and that just feels weird. It feels like the Saints weren't that good, but anyhow,
NFC South, a different team every year.
That's disgusting. And Terry Cohen as a returner and as a backup running back is amazing. I feel like the Chicago Bears could cash out if they tried moving him right now because he is playing at an elite level as a returner, and as we saw as Steelers fans, he is really good as a runner, and he's doing that against other people as well. It wasn't just against the Steelers. So, and obviously their starter is Jordan Howard, so I feel like they got a waste of talent there with someone so good being a backup, but regardless.
All right, Niners at Eagles. The Eagles were 13-point favorites. It was close early. I mean, it was 0-0, but then the Eagles did what they were supposed to do.
Oh, yeah, I got worried. It seemed like that game was 3-0 for the longest amount of time, and then the Eagles just they had their way.
Took care of business. Cowboys at Redskins. Cowboys were 2.5-point favorites on the road. We both took the Redskins to win outright. Cowboys won pretty handily there in the rain.
Yeah, the Cowboys ruined the Redskins. I don't know what to think about the Redskins. I thought they were bad, and then I thought they were okay, and then I thought they were good, and now they're just back to bad. I don't know what to make of them.
Just always disappointing.
Yeah, did you go past Texans Seahawks on purpose?
No, yes, I did. Because it could have been the game of the year for some people. I think it was not a very good game just because I don't think anybody played defense in this game. There were several touchdowns where the offensive player was not touched at all, particularly towards the end. That Jimmy Graham touchdown, I keep thinking about the Key and Peele skit where I forget his name, but he's like, yo, where my safety help at? That's kind of where I was thinking because there was nobody near him. But I picked the Seahawks to cover. They won, what was the final score, 41-38?
Yeah, 41-38.
I figured Deshaun Watson was going to have a really rough day. He had 2 picks? He had 3 picks. The last one was a desperation throw. He didn't exactly struggle, though. He played pretty well, and the Texans did lose, but it didn't go down hard. And Austin picked the Texans to win outright, which they probably should have several times.
They had that game. They had it. And then they just let Russell Wilson have his way down the field. Just let Jimmy Graham open on a wide-open touchdown. They let Jimmy Graham score 14 points in the fourth quarter. He was doing nothing until the fourth quarter. He was absolutely shut down. It's just, I hate it. I want to see the Seahawks lose. I want to see them lose miserably. It pisses me off that the Texans couldn't just put that game away. The Texans should have put that game away.
Yeah, but in any case, another week of NFL football in the books besides Monday night. Obviously, we'll talk about that game on our next show. Right now, Austin and I sitting at the exact same standings at 45 and 54. Elsewhere, just a quick wrap-up. Niners and Browns fall to 0-8. Eagles have the league's best record at 7-1. And we just talked about the Texans-Seahawks game. Is there anything else you wanted to say, Austin?
No, but actually one more thing. I didn't get to check back on it, but from what I heard, Chris Hogan suffered a really nasty injury as well. I don't know what it turned out to be, but apparently he was on the sideline, like, screaming when people were looking at his shoulder. I think that's what he injured.
Yeah, he injured it late in that game.
Yeah, so they might be without another wide receiver, which would leave just Brandon Cooks really standing by himself. Brandon Cooks, Danny Amendola.
And Gronkowski.
And Gronkowski. And then
Malcolm Mitchell.
Malcolm Mitchell. There you go. And that's really it. So it makes sense why they were trying to trade for Martavis Bryant.
Yeah. Just a couple things. With the bye week coming up, it's a busy time for Austin and I right now. We're going to try to bring you a couple more episodes before the preview with the Colts game. Going to try to get Will Lester back in here for another episode. We're going to try to do a first half recap episode and then a second half preview episode, so we'll hopefully get a few more things in here. We'll keep you updated, but another just quick thing for just a little thing for you guys. We'll be having a kind of a small special announcement for our 1-year anniversary, which is coming up in just a few days. So we'll keep you guys updated as far as that is, and we'll obviously tell you more at that time. But I think this will be our last episode of our first full year before we get to the 1-year anniversary. So Austin, I just wanted to say it's been a pleasure working with you all this time, and I'm glad I can call you a friend. Thank you to Gina, my girlfriend, for having us meet, by the way.
Oh, yeah. No, that was amazing. Thank you for meeting Gina and you guys dating. There we go. Boom.
It's kind of crazy how it all ended up being that way. I wasn't really watching the Steelers nearly at all last season before we started doing this. I don't know why, but it was just one of those years where I actually was starting to get out of football, and I'm just back into it more now than I ever have been. So I'm glad I'm back into it. That's what I'll say.
The hockey ball was hot too. I mean, Penguins have won 3 in a row. That was in the middle of their third one, right? I don't know.
They won 2 straight cups, but that was in between their first and second, so it was definitely a good time for hockey right now. But we wanted to do a quick episode, and we're approaching an hour, so it's time for us to get out of here, Austin.
Yes, it is. Have a good night, everybody.
All right, take care, Steeler Nation. We'll be back soon.
You have been listening to Stronger Than Steel podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to check out our website listed in the description below.